Okay. Is it better? Do you guys hear me? Yeah, on the back? Yeah, good. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Tanbih, which is a news aggregator that makes people aware of propaganda and bias in the news. And initially I was thinking of just like showing you the tool, but I wanted first to give you a little bit of background about it. So, okay, about fake news. So fake news have become a weapon of mass deception. And the reason people worry about them, okay, there has been like, disinformation has been going on, you know, there are kind of even early stories in the old Egyptian times. There's kind of some Egyptian pyramid that tells a story about a great victory that actually the battle never happened, you know, things like that. So kind of, you know, disinformation has been around, you know, for a long time. We had all these kind of tabloids and yellow press, and it was not a problem. It became a problem in 2016 for two reasons. Because we have messages that kind of are viral. So if I like to say that you know, fake news is a little bit like spam on steroids. If I send spam to 1,000 users, it reaches 1,000 users and dies there, right? If I send some clickbaity kind of catchy title to somebody, they might like kind of share it and can get reshared and can, you know, can potentially reach millions and can, you know, be reshared for months and so on and so forth, right? The second thing is that I can do extreme personalization. I can actually design a message that is created exactly for you, that actually models you and is designed to press a specific button on you, okay? So that you, I mean, I can know that you are from this particular little town that is very important for me in the election campaign to get, and I know your age group, I know kind of whether you're male or female, and so on, and kind of probably where you live, and things like that, and based even just on that, I can like create some specific message. And if I know a little bit from your post, I can get a little, very, very good, you know, profile. And this is what Cambridge Analytica has done. This is what got, you know, all the problems, you know, for Facebook. And this is why politicians worry about it, primarily because, you know, so the main problem of fake news is not that they are fake, that they are false. The main problem is that they are weaponized, that they are used as a political weapon. And by the way, for this to happen, they don't have to be fake. They don't need to be false. I have been talking to journalists and they are telling me the best manipulation, the best propaganda is when you tell the truth, only the truth, but not the whole truth, okay? Kind of bias by omission. This is a very important tool. Okay, but let's, okay. So the question is, does it work, right? Does it work? Well, it turns out that, you know, a single, kind of a very, very small percent of the voters have, in 3 key states, have, you know, decided the election. So this kind of, many people believe that this kind of manipulation actually works. We don't know whether it works. It's actually the case, you know, even if you have an advertisement campaign, for example, Coca-Cola or I don't know, or Schumansko, or whatever kind of, they have an advertisement campaign. They don't know whether it works or not. They have some indicators. What were the sales before? What were the sales after? During an election campaign, there are so many events going on, you don't know whether one particular manipulation, you know, what was its outcome, because there are so many things going on, right? So we don't know whether it works. But there are people that believe it works, okay? So here's one, okay? And you know, kind of people believe that, I mean, kind of fake news had also a big impact on the Brexit referendum. And actually, do you know the story about the kind of, do you know that the capital of the fake news was in the town of Veles in Macedonia? No? Yes? Who knew that? Okay, wow, quite a few people. Okay, so, okay, but kind of, it turns out that most of you don't know about it. Okay, this is a story that is like 2 years old, right? It was everywhere in the news. So basically, here's what happened. There were some high school students in Macedonia, and one started kind of creating fake news website, and basically kind of the idea was to show advertisements and then, you know, get the revenue, right? So kind of the idea is that you can actually create fake news not because you want to manipulate political elections, but because you want to get rich, right? And this is what the guy was doing. And soon, kind of things went well, and he started like creating more, and at some point he was hiring English teachers in the US and was paying them American salaries to write fake news for him, okay? And then he was running like more websites. At some point, you know, then there were kind of other teenagers that found out about this. Okay, you know, they started doing the same. And at some point, people in the US realized that big part of the pro-Trump fake news were coming from Macedonia. So this was actually started becoming big. It was started kind of something that kind of was getting influence, right? But the people were doing it only for the money, okay? Right? Interesting story that tells you that fake news is not necessarily done for political reasons. Nice story, except it's not true. It's not true. Actually, there was, kind of, a few months ago, there was an investigation, right, by journalists, and also kind of people started looking into it, and actually those kids are now under criminal investigation, both in the US and in Macedonia, right? And it's kind of almost certain that kind of it's very, very clear that at some point there was some collision with the Republicans. It's not probably, I mean, my theory is that what happened is that when those guys became so popular, they had the platform, somebody gave them, okay, why don't you write about this, right? Something like that, right? They did not create it, but once it was there, somebody kind of used it. And there were some suspicions that there were some collisions with the Russians. This second thing is not so sure, but the collisions with the Republicans is kind of, quite likely. Okay, another thing, right? So fake news, fake claims can actually have a big impact on the stock exchange. So for example, there was, back in 2013, right, there was a hacker, Syrian hackers, hacked the Twitter account of Associated Press. By the way, Associated Press, France Press, and Reuters are the three agencies where the vast majority of the news that we read every day originate from, okay? And those are the trusted sources. I mean, when we are working with journalists from different media, for example, Al Jazeera, they tell us when we are fact-checking a story, the moment we find, that Reuters, France Press or Associated Press, one of those three, has written about it and, they agree with the claim, we stop there. It's true, okay? Because those guys, they are selling news to everybody. They're really, really doing their job well, okay? So now the thing is, you hack the Twitter account of Associated Press, one of the three big trusted sources, right? And you put there, oh, there were 2 explosions in the White House and Barack Obama is injured. What happened? Within seconds, $136 billion were erased on the stock exchange, okay? So this is something that is important, right? Kind of from an economic viewpoint. Another thing, there are other kinds of fakes that are not necessarily about political elections. Those are things about our health. I mean, I cannot tell you, okay, what kinds of things I have been reading about, I don't know, the Himalayan salt and this and that, they're kind of also the anti-vaxxers. So this is another thing that actually directly affects our health, okay? And, those fake news, those fake messages are actually literally getting people killed in India, right? So they are kind of, over there, it's not that much Twitter, it's not that much Facebook, it's WhatsApp, right? Those are kind of close groups where there are people kind of, it's just like a few hundred people that can be there, or some tens, and if there's somebody whom people trust, the moment when, this kind of person says something, they kind of believe. And they're having like many people being accused of something, and then, people go after them and kill them. And actually, those killings can go in massive scales. So for example, an official investigation by the United Nations claims that Facebook had a determining role in the violence against Rohingya. This was a major genocide going on, okay? So, I mean, the impact of this manipulation can be huge. And again, even Tim Berners-Lee, the creator of the web, kind of, do you guys hear me well? Yes, okay. Is it better? Okay. So, was complaining that his invention was easy to weaponize, okay? He was complaining that, the web is used as a political weapon. By the way, some interesting thing, I have seen somebody has a picture of actually, it was, Tim Berners-Lee got the Turing Award, which is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in computing, right? He was on the advisory board of the Qatar Computing Research Institute. No, actually, we had some collaboration projects with him. Not me, but other people from our institute. So he came to give a lecture, and actually 1 week after he got the award, in Qatar, and he was, invited many places. And actually, I have seen one TV, and they had like Tim Berners-Lee, web developer, right? Well, he developed the web, right? So he's a web developer. Yes. Okay. Right. So I mean, this is another kind of manipulation. It's kind of true, right? But I mean, kind of. Okay. So he is complaining about that. Okay. Now the question is, what can we do about it? Well, here's one possible answer. Joseph Goebbels, he is the minister of propaganda of the Third Reich, a person who really knew his job, okay? And he was saying, propaganda becomes ineffective the moment we are aware of it, okay? So the basic thing, okay, there are many, many things that can be done about the fake news, okay? So first of all, as I was saying, they are like spam on steroids, right? That they're viral, they're spreading, and they're spreading very fast. Actually, studies show that 50% of the spread of the fake news on social media happen in the first 10 minutes, okay? So if you want to act very fast, okay? So, and then who is in the best position to do that? Well, those platforms, right? Okay, so they're in the best position to do it. But on the other hand, if you think about it, if this doesn't work, if people actually know about it, and if kind of, stop believing it or kind of don't really act in this way, then people are not going to invest all the money about it, right? And I mean, then those kind of things can become just like the tabloids. I mean, they're around, but kind of they're not a problem because people know, okay, this is kind of, a tabloid, we don't trust it that much. So kind of, if we start like becoming aware of which sites we can trust and what kind of news or kind of how we can understand them, kind of if we can educate the population, this is the thing that we can actually do. And I mean, so there's evidence that this is working. So for example, Finland, there has been like a lot of articles a few months ago about Finland actually winning the war on fake news. They are the country that really took it seriously, and they have done this in the education system at all levels. And let me show you something about media literacy, okay? This is a map of media literacy in Europe, and of course Finland is at the top, okay? And Bulgaria is somewhere here with 30% media literacy, right? And kind of, see Eastern Europe and especially the Balkans, in not very dark color, which means that, the media literacy is not that high. So, I mean, this is what we actually can work on. And of course, when we started the Tanbih project, this study was not around, but we had similar ideas, kind of, basically this motivation that propaganda doesn't work if people know about it, okay? So we have this, we have been doing a lot of things related to fact-checking news, fact-checking claims, fact-checking kind of, answers in the community forum, detecting what is worth fact-checking in the first place, and so on and so forth. And we thought, what can we do so that people can start using this technology, okay? And then we thought, okay, maybe it's good to have a news aggregator. So a news aggregator, there is kind of, for example, there's a very simple news aggregator in the Arab world called Meetup, which is something that allows you to just follow news from some tweet accounts. That's it. You just select which ones you want to follow, and it shows them on the phone. It's something that you probably can develop, I don't know, in a couple of days or a couple of weeks at most, right? They have 20 million users, okay? And it's only for Arabic. Okay, the Arab world is 300 million, 350 million speakers, but still. So if you have something that works for English and possibly for other languages, this is something that can actually reach many people. So this is what we did. So we have news aggregator that has fact-checking capabilities that actually makes people aware, shows them when there's bias in the news, when there's propaganda. And the idea is that hopefully this can educate users and can limit the effect of disinformation. So basically what we have is, we have this news aggregator, we have media profiles, we show you the sources, and kind of so that you know what you can expect from those sources, and we are also looking into fine-grained propaganda analysis. Okay, so we have plenty of people working on this. Actually, it's a cross-disciplinary project in the Qatar Computing Research Institute. So we have people from the Arabic Language Technologies group, we have people from social computing, we have advisors from the Northwestern University in Qatar. Then we developed this in collaboration with MIT. We have a collaboration project with them. We have some people that are both on the QCRI and MIT side. And we have plenty of students and kind of colleagues from the Sofia University that have been working with us. Some of them have been working on, Master of Science thesis, over the last couple of years. So we have plenty of collaborations. We work with MIT, as I said. We have been collaborating a lot with the Sofia University. Earlier this year with the Data Science Society and the Data Pro about a hackathon. We work with Al Jazeera, Associated Press, RTR1, and so on and so forth. So a little bit to give you a background before I show you actually the app. So there has been a lot of previous work doing fact-checking of claims, rumors, and articles, okay? So what is a claim? A claim is this, something that we know who said it, right? Everyone must say, okay, I'm taking Tesla private, funding is secured. This caused him a lot of trouble, right? And then this is a rumor. We don't know where it comes from, right? Oh yeah, I mean, Vladimir Putin is dead and there's somebody else running the country, right? Or kind of, it can be an article, right? The article sits there on some website. We don't know what kind of this website is, but kind of this one saying, okay, oh, Obama spoke to the soldiers and told them to do a coup against Trump. Wow, okay, And then you want to fact check those, right? Now the problem is there are many of those. There are so many, right? And as I told you, 50% of the spread happens in the first 10 minutes. So you have to act fast if you really want to be efficient. Now the question is, how can you do it, right? So, I mean, our answer is, the first thing is go after the source. This is what journalists do. They want at least 2 independent sources, that they trust to verify the information. And this is what, I mean, so for example, this one comes from the angrypatriotmovement.com. You want to go and fact check, First of all, this kind of angrypatriotmovement.com, I mean, something that you can chop into several words is something that doesn't sound too trustworthy to me, I mean, in general. But anyway, the idea is that you can actually go, you can fact check those sources. There are not that many because, okay, here's the point is this. Even if you spread something on Twitter, right, you typically want to put a link to a website where there's a web page where there's kind of a longer version of this story. Now, you don't create a new website for every single fake claim that you make. You want to reuse them. Well, we can monitor which are those that are more interesting, more frequently used, and so on and so forth. And then you can go and you can actually go and create profiles, trust quality scores, and then you can be prepared. And then I like to say that we can fact check, detect the fake news before they were even written, because the moment when they're written and they are put on some website, well, we can be prepared and you can know whether you can trust this website or not, okay? And then you can, this kind of the verification, okay, this kind of initial thing, going on. By the way, there's a problem for this. The problem is that, okay, so in Facebook, satire is protected, okay? And this is something that I have noticed recently, also in Bulgaria, that websites, fake news websites or manipulation propaganda websites self-declare as fake news websites or as satire, right? But then actually they do normal manipulation because people are sending me something, look at this, and I'm like, well, see where it's coming from. I mean, it's coming from this tra-la-la, whatever, right? I mean, but actually you look there and it's a serious article, it's an interview, and something, and this is what is going on. So basically kind of, because Facebook is not really trying to filter and kind of, to lower the spread of information that is coming. It is satire, there is, humor. Kind of many of those are masquerading in this way. Anyway, so we have this news aggregator that I'm going to show you in a moment that does all this. So I have some extra slides, just maybe I'll show you and then I'll show you the aggregator. Okay, so this work got a lot of media coverage. Over 100 different organizations wrote about it. And I'm not saying this because, I want to say, oh yeah, we have done all this. No, I actually have a point to make, which is actually connected also to the Data Science Society. Okay, so what did people write about? We had actually a paper that we have published, and it was about this particular paper. And what do you think? What do they write about it? Well, they write that there was a machine learning system that, determines, which source is accurate or biased, and this kind of neutral, you can expect that. And you can also expect some kind of hype. Other media wrote, oh, Facebook might be eager to get its hands on this latest, fake news AI. Okay, so this kind of the hype. It's about the same work that we had. But I didn't expect this. Even the best AI, okay, no, actually, you can expect this as well. I was expecting a little bit of this. Even the best AI is still terrible, right? And this is all about the same work, okay? So now you can see the bias and you can see the different perspectives, right? Okay, that's fine. Those you can kind of can expect. Probably more of the first two kinds, a little bit less of this, and actually we did have a little bit less of this. But I did not expect this. MIT allies with Islamic terror state to censor conservatives, okay? So this is because we have a collaboration project with MIT, and this paper was authored by colleagues with MIT, by students from the Sofia University, and people from the Qatar Computing Research Institute. And now we have Qatar. Well, if it's Qatar, it has to be a terror state. All the Islamic states are terror states. There's no question about it. And then MIT, and then those two together, what do? They silence conservatives in the US, right? Okay, so, and this is what our analysis of this particular source that published this, says about them. That kind of we find them quite untrustworthy, low mixed factuality. And actually this is what the Media Bias Fact Check, this is kind of a organization that has about 3,000 websites kind of fact checked, and they kind of have an idea about what is their bias and so on and so forth. This is what they say, they are kind of extreme right, and they're a hate group, and they're negative towards minorities in Islam, and they're on the Islamophobia network, and anti-Muslim and all that. Anyway, kind of they see something coming from a Muslim country because I work in Qatar, right? Then they don't think further. I mean, okay, and this gets us to propaganda, and there are many different ways to do propaganda, and we have been working on labeling entire news articles as propaganda, but we have been actually collaborating with the Data Science Society and with AData Pro. And actually with people here, so I see Laura, we have been like organizing a shared task on that, where we have been looking into the use of specific propaganda techniques, fine-grained propaganda techniques. So, to determine in text what is the use of specific techniques, some of those. So basically those are two kinds. Those are some kind of appeal to prejudices, to authority, to patriotism, and so on. And the other half are logical fallacies. For example, you're either with us or against us. Well, there are other options. Maybe I'm neutral, right? Stuff like that. And the idea was to actually to detect in text where those kinds of techniques are used. And the interesting thing is that if you have a tool like that, there's no good defense against this. Because if I tell you, my spam filter looks for, I don't know, uppercase words, or I don't know, too much punctuation, whatever, the moment you know this, you say, okay, I stop using that. Now, if I tell you what you look for is you are looking for the very device of propaganda. You are looking for those things. And if you have algorithm to detect it, you cannot stop using it because it's not going to work. It's not going to make people angry, right? It's not going to do the manipulation. So there is no good defense against this because this is the very essence of propaganda. Those are the propaganda techniques. You have to use them if you want to influence people. And this is exactly what we have been looking at in this hackathon. And we had, this. And now I want to show you the demo. Tanbih, the news aggregator. Let's see if it works. So this is Tanbih. Okay, let me see how to use this mouse. So it works in English and in Arabic, and actually it tells you that this specific article, for example, has some propaganda, right? So that asks you, I mean, why? That's a different story. I mean, we don't have right now something that can explain why, but yeah. And we mix English and Arabic, and actually, if you click on a particular source, let's say, I mean, now this is not about the article, it's about the entire source. Let's say we look at Fox News, right? we are building those media profiles that I was talking about. So we find that it's not really hyper-partisan. We have a hyper-partisanship detector. It's kind of somewhat central, about 30% central. And then here we have the degree of propaganda. So we have like how many articles that we have analyzed from Fox News, how many of them have turned out to be very likely to be propaganda. About 80% are very unlikely, and just like 3.7% are very likely, and like 5% are very likely, are likely. So this is not that bad as a source. The very good media are about 90-95% good. Actually, let me show you first a good one. Let's say, okay, sorry. Let me show you, for example, BBC. Okay, here's BBC. And BBC, you see, it's really central, not hyper-partisan. And then you see there's almost no propaganda. It's like 95%. It's like very unlikely to be propaganda according to our propaganda detector, right? We have analyzed some 25,000 articles. And then we have the frame of reporting. So any event has, this is not about category, things like, it is not about topic, it is not about whether this is sport or business or politics. No, this is about the angle from which you are reporting the story. So, for example, if you think of Brexit, right, it has a political aspect, it has a legal aspect, it has an economic aspect, could have human rights aspect, and so on and so forth. And here you see that it's primarily cultural identity, and then it's crime and punishment, and only then it's political, then it's health and safety, and so on and so forth. And then we have, do we trust them? So this is the factuality of reporting. How do we do it? How do we determine the factuality of reporting of an entire news outlet? Well, we are looking at what is published. We are analyzing the language of the articles that are being published. We also look into what is there in the Wikipedia page of this news outlet, whether there is a Wikipedia page in the first place or not. Then we are looking into their social media profiles, and also what people write about them. We are also looking at the structure of the URL. So if you have something like abcnews.com.co, why do you have to have .com.co, right? That's kind of fishy. Or if you have angrypatriotmovement.com or 100% fedup.com, I mean, those are not serious titles, right? So kind of we are doing analysis at that level. And more recently, we have been also looking into analyzing the YouTube channels of those. And actually, Johan is here. He has been working on that. I don't have slides on this. It's not integrated here at this point. We have been looking into the speech signal and so on and so forth. And so here we see that, we find BBC quite factual. And then their leading political ideology on a 3-point scale. Are they left? Are they right? Are they centric? And here you see that they are fairly central, probably a little bit left. And you can also see this on a 7-point scale. And on a 7-point scale, you see that they are predominantly center-left. This is what we predict about them. This is all automatic. We have publications. We have systems for this. And then here we have the audience outreach. What kind of people are reading BBC? And you see, we estimate about 630,000, liberal readers in social media, and about 440, so kind of you see it's mostly liberal. I mean, they're also conservative, like 8%. And then here we have their bias with respect to specific topics that we have actually discovered. So this is not the bias based on the content of the media. This is a bias of the users who are sharing articles by this medium. Okay, so this kind of user level bias. So they're kind of characterizing users as, and then you see what kind of users are sharing content from this medium with respect to specific topics. So for example, we find in this way that BBC is left, in terms of climate change, and left on gun control, very left on immigration, and on Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar is this Muslim member of the Congress in the US who makes controversial statements left and right and causes controversy and so on. And then, they're kind of neutral on the midterm elections and so on and so forth. And then we have also analysis of what let's say BBC is writing, and here, for example, we have where they are pro-climate change in the sense that we have to do something about it, and whether they agree or disagree with specific statements. So, for example, do they agree with the claim that climate change is a flat-out hoax? And actually, we found 292 articles out of the 25,000 that we have analyzed to say something about this claim, and we find 281 of them to disagree with this claim, and about 9 to agree. Of course, our classifier can also fail. I mean, but kind of, you should look at the big numbers. Kind of, we are 97% confident that they really disagree with this specific claim. And we have kind of, we have done things about other things and other claims. So let me go back now to, let me go back to what did we have about Fox News? It was here. We do have some Bulgarian media. Okay, so look, a little bit more propaganda, not that much. I mean, it was 95% clean, now it's 80% clean, which is fine, which is good. And it's like crime and punishment, and then political cultural identity in terms of frame. And then we kind of find them of mixed factuality, mostly, right? You see 44% mix and then some woe. And then we find them really right-leaning, okay? And then who is reading them? Really conservatives, okay? This is Fox News. And then what is their bias with respect to different topics? We kind of find them far right on everything, okay? So, and so on and so forth. So let me show you some, let me show you some, let's say some of those that have Patriot in the name. Let's say Patriot Up to Date. Let's see. Okay, wow, very hyper partisan. Okay, we really don't trust them much. They're right. Okay, let's have a peek. Oh, far right. Okay. Yeah, okay. We don't have much. So kind of for some of those, we have incomplete profiles. Okay, let me show you some Bulgarian ones. But I don't like to show things about, I don't know, Bradva. Right? So I don't like to show them because it doesn't work very well for other languages. Okay, so kind of we have done something quick and dirty. We have done it like for about 10 languages. We have done it for, we have Bulgarian, we have, we have like French, German, Turkish, Hungarian, so on. But we need to work more on that. So I'm not super confident in the cross-language stuff. Let me show you something else. So what we have is, we have some analysis of events. So this kind of some aggregation of the information that has been published on a specific particular event. So here, for example, we have Brexit, and this is in some specific time interval. There is no particular reason. We just did this experiment on February the 11th. And so we have a map that shows, which countries are talking about Brexit and kind of what percent of their coverage is about Brexit in this time interval, and what percent of it is propagandistic. And then you can actually go down and you can see what are the top reporting countries. Well, UK, okay, in absolute numbers. In relative numbers, actually, turns out it's Canada and Russia. And then, the top propagandistic countries, Russia and then the UK. But kind of in relative terms, the first one is France, but it's just like because we have only 3 articles, and I don't know, it's a bug, it's a mistake in this particular case. So top reporting media, BBC, Mail Online, Guardian. By ratio, the Independent, Mail Online, Guardian, that's fine. Propaganda comes from Guardian, Mail Online, Sputnik, in relative terms, and so on. So, and then you can see to what extent this topic is propagandistic. Well, you see 80% not propagandistic, which is interesting. And then you see the frame of reporting is by far political, okay? Then comes cultural identity, and then it's economy, and then it's the legal stuff, and then it's the quality of life. Okay? Now let me show you some other event. Let's say, I don't know, let's say vaccinations, benefits and dangers. Okay? So here, for example, you see much more propaganda, 60% clean content only, 40% is some sort, and then the frame of reporting is not really political, it's health and safety, and then it's cultural identity and quality of life. Let me show you, let's say, this Ilhan Omar, who is this Muslim member of parliament, of the Senate. So you see tons of propaganda on the topic. It's like 40, kind of this 40%, 30% very likely, and it's by far political, right? Or I don't know. Let's say climate change. Let's see something. Climate change. Let's see. Yeah, 70% clean, so a little bit propagandistic. And it's cultural identity, and then it's political, and then it's economy, and then it's health. That's interesting. And then, do you know the Khashoggi's murder? Yes, no? It was a journalist of Washington Post of Saudi, origin, who was killed in the Saudi embassy in Istanbul. So interesting that actually consulate. Interesting that it's not really propagandistic what people write about it. Okay, first of all, who writes about it? By far the US. Well, but it's kind of in absolute numbers. Where propaganda comes from? Okay, which are the media that write about it? CNN, Al Jazeera, Sputnik, and so on. But in terms of relative terms, it's Washington Post. He was a journalist there, so it kind of makes sense. Okay, and then what is the frame of reporting? Well, primarily political, and only then kind of cultural identity, and only then it's kind of legal stuff, crime and punishment and so on. But if you look at another kind of murder, let's say I don't know, let's say Christchurch shooting. You remember the Christchurch mosque shooting? There were some guys from Australia that actually went to kind of had a shooting in a mosque in New Zealand, right? Yeah, before the event he was in Bulgaria. Yeah, I remember that there was some connection and yeah. Anyway, so see, it's really propagandistic topic, right? Unlike the Khashoggi's murder, see, it's like 60% clean, and about. And then this time it's not political; it's cultural identity and crime and punishment. Why? Because this was not a political killing. It was kind of primarily what media wrote about. Oh, those guys with the guns were Christians; those guys that were killed were Muslims. And then, oh, we have arrested them, now we're going to sue them. So it was kind of, this kind of legal stuff. And political was only after that. Okay, so I think that's what I wanted to show you. I mean, questions, or you want to see some other medium, or yes? Okay. Or we need to switch to the questions.
Hi. I would like to take you back to something that you said, that the best propaganda is not what is shared, but what is shared just partially. How would actually...
What is shared through what?
Just partially.
Partially, okay.
Tell the truth, but not the whole truth, I think were your exact words. How would my assumption is that something like this is not part of the models at present, or am I wrong in that?
Yes and no. So, okay, I mean, bias by omission is very hard, and I mean, when we have been even here working with to organize this hackathon on the use of specific propaganda techniques, right? One of the technique of the classical propaganda technique is bias, kind of is omission, kind of, where you are, not, hiding something, right? This is very hard to do. Kind of, if I have a piece of text, I can read it, I can see what is there, and I can analyze, I can say, okay, I mean, this here, I don't know, exaggeration, or here I see name calling, they're calling this person stupid, or they're saying, make America great again, or stuff like that, right? I mean, like, this you can detect, right? But what is not there is very hard, right? Kind of you have to do some kind of comparison. I mean, if you see that other media are, kind of doing, reporting on this, and this particular medium is not, I mean, so what we have been working on, we have been working with a summer intern to do some kind of visualization of, on a specific topic of what media are showing, and then kind of showing also the standard deviation, kind of seeing which media kind of over-report or under-report on a specific topic, so that you can kind of start like seeing those kind of things. So we have like looking a little bit into this. It's not kind of presently integrated, but I mean, we're going to put it there. But it's kind of more on the analysis side. It's a hard topic, but yeah, I think it's very important.
I'm kind of curious about the connection. So when you're in the feed itself, you say whether the news is trustworthy or not, or whatever, based on the source. But when you open the source itself, you kind of have a breakdown by what fraction of their articles are actually biased versus. So I was curious in that example with Fox News, where they intentionally have a lot of solid journalism as sort of cover for their biased articles, and you obviously fairly decently detected that they mostly do real stuff or cover for the most biased stuff. But the article itself got tagged as biased when it was obviously some factual reporting. So why, if you can kind of get individual articles, why are you showing that source information?
I mean, that's a good question. So, I mean, mostly for historical reasons, there's no good reason, because kind of our first motivation was to go after the source. So kind of we first wanted to profile the media, right? And only then go after the articles. I mean, this is actually one reason. And we are actually now working into adding this kind of predictions for the articles. Another reason is that making a prediction for an article is much riskier, because you only see this particular article. And if your classifier kind of you have has, I don't know, let's say suppose it's 60, 78, 80% correct, you can make a mistake, right? But even think of a classifier that is, let's say, even 60% correct, but you give it to analyze 25,000 articles. Well, I mean, random things only happen randomly, and you are eventually going to see the signal, right? Kind of, maybe not with the correct proportion, but you're going to see, oh, it's biased in this direction, or kind of it's mostly, kind of trustworthy or not. So it's kind of mostly that, I mean, but you are right. We are anyway, we are making those decisions in the individual article level. We are just kind of not showing them. And but then when this one thing, but kind of when we're looking into characterizing one news outlet, we are not classifying every single article and then accumulating this. No, we are kind of extracting features from every single article, and we are accumulating those features. Kind of, we may only make one decision collectively for the entire news outlet. We don't really kind of make, at least initially, classification for every single article. But yeah, but kind of some of the things we do at the article level already, and I have shown you the propaganda, right? Is this propaganda or not? Now we want to add others. But I can tell you that whether something is left, right, or center, actually we have that, and we have an API. We are now working. We are working in a Catalyst project, which is something like, it's a short-term project for 6 months, where media providers, kind of media outlets, in our case Al Jazeera, Associated Press, RT Ireland, work with different startups and with different technology providers and research institutes. I mean, we are there in the consortium as well. And so basically we have provided to them an APIs exactly for that. So they give us an article, and you can predict to them whether this is left, right, or center leaning, or kind of whether we feel kind of is propaganda or not. The problem is that if you want to do this at the individual sentence level, for example, it doesn't quite work. actually it's hard even for people to detect this. That's one thing. Another thing is left, center, right, they have different aspects. So for example, what is left and right on the west is a little bit mixed here in Eastern Europe, because here the left is conservative, right? Kind of, you know, the right are those that kind of want economic reform and stuff like that, kind of, you know. On the other hand, the left is still kind of socially left in the Western sense, but kind of in terms of, I don't know, gay rights or other kinds of, they're actually conservative. So it's a mixture. So kind of left and right are not universal notions. This is one of the reasons why I don't like showing the profiles for media from in other languages, because they're specifics.
Okay, we will have 2 questions. I'm wondering probably to see the top rank one here. So if you have preference,
actually, I have started answering that, right? So
yeah, okay.
Okay. So first of all, left and right are not universal notions. So in some countries, probably you cannot even talk about left and right, because there are no elections, there is no political system, right? And let's say in some parts of the world, let's say in the Islamic world, the main polarization is not left versus right. It's more like, you know, more religious versus more secular, right? This kind of the main polarization there. In other parts of the world, you can have other kinds of polarization. So kind of left and right is, you know, not necessarily what you need to look at. And as I said, I mean, we have annotations, we have actually data, training data for left and right from different countries. We have been also looking into left and right in Bulgaria, and we have like trying to put all these things together. I don't quite like it for the reasons that I said. There are specifics in different countries. Here in Eastern Europe, things are mixed. That's one thing. Another thing is that what I like more, I don't know, let me open something else. Let's say Arte. Okay, Arte, no problemo. Russia Today. Okay. Not very propagandistic, cultural identity, and so on and so forth. Okay. So what I like is I like more this actually, and this is much more revealing. I mean, I can tell you that RT, right? Actually, this is a very good example. So I can tell you RT is like center or center left or something like that politically, and then kind of you see that their bias in the people that read them is kind of liberal. But think about it. Left and right has social aspects, has economic aspects, has political aspects, has internal politics, has external politics. Kind of, you know, it has, I mean, there's a left and right view on climate change. There's a left and right view on abortion in the US. I mean, there's left and right view on gun control, and so on and so forth. And in different countries, there are different things that you need to look at. And this is what I like this more. I like this kind of thing more, because it shows you the bias. And if I tell you something is left or right, you don't know what to expect, because things are actually a little bit mixed. And here, this is very interesting. You know, RT is not centered on any topic. So they're kind of far left on climate change. They really think that you should do something about climate change, but then kind of they support the Kavanaugh nomination, and they're kind of. So, I mean, well, I don't want to overgeneralize, from this, but I can tell you that there has been research from last year. They have in publications that predicting whether in an individual article, this goes back to the question about classifying an individual article as left or right, classifying an individual article as left, right, or center is actually hard. And this is why people started saying, because, if you start being like, especially if you become biased, I don't know if this is like an example of that. Let me see. Okay, this is not. But it becomes kind of the models start picking that you are biased, that you are extreme, that you are kind of propaganda, but kind of cannot really tell whether you are kind of going left or right. Partly because there are kind of so many topics, and it was actually easier to tell whether you are biased or non-biased kind of whether you're kind of, you know, hyper partisan or non-hyper partisan, right? Kind of whether you're kind of extreme left and extreme right, you put them in the same bin, and everybody else, you know, in the other one. But kind of it's hard to tell, you know, whether it's extreme left or extreme right, for example, right? Because those extremes. And the interesting thing, there have been articles about those, let's say in particular the Russian trolls, where the study was that kind of big part of them were not really supporting this side or that side. They are kind of interested in kind of, you know, they are supporting both sides. They're kind of supporting this side, also supporting that side. So kind of the purpose was kind of to increase the polarization in the society. We probably see a little bit of this here. Kind of we have a little bit left, a little bit right. But this is kind of speculation.
Okay, I think yeah, you're like a Wikipedia. We can ask you and you can speak for ages. So thank you, Preslav. So let's applause them. I mean, I assume you have a lot of questions. So now we will have the network part, which is there will be a beer and pizza, and it is thanks to our host Limpom. Something else probably because. Yeah. Okay. Something which I want to share. It's like something what happened probably what we were thinking in Data Science Society the last year. Most of you, first of all, I'm curious, how many of you are having something in journalism? Can you raise a hand? Just curious, how many people? Okay. Okay, I mean, the rest, I assume, are from data science. At least I know a lot of faces here. Something for Data Science Society, it's like we are having a change, which Danny explained. Something which I want to share is that before 4 years ago, when we started, our idea is the Data Science Society needs to be a community, a place where people can collaborate and work together, and really benefit from each other and work on different initiatives. And that's why with most of the people, I mean, I'm seeing here, we have a lot in common. We have worked on our data tones, on our tasks which we have, or even on our meetups. So here, something which we are starting is defining from the community what is going to be the next 1 year. What kind of projects we are going to work. What kind of support we can receive, because this is something we want a Data Science Society to be a non-government organization which is driven by the people and driven by the people who are interested here. Something which we identify on our first meeting, then there are 3 main directions. And the first one is the networking. I mean, we believe that in Bulgaria, if we are focused primarily in Bulgaria, and the network part is really strong. I mean, me personally, probably for the meetups, I have more than 100 people who I think we have like a long list for the meetups. So it's like, it's me. I mean, Laura can give others. I mean, there are a lot of people who are expert, Milen or the others. So what I see that if we can combine this and make such kind of events where people can see each other is a good approach. The other direction was the Data Science Society, and people who are really interested in that can focus in training. I mean, this is my hand, and I put it here, and we know what is the education in Bulgaria. We know how hard it is, especially in Data Science Society, to learn and to find the people here. So we strongly believe that working with universities, I'm also a mentor of some of the universities, so working there, supporting or working in that area can boost and raise the curiosity of the young people. And the third area which we identify is this working on a project which are with good cause. It can be a public cause, it can be even working with in journalism. Probably we are trying to contact in Bivu, so such kind of stuff which can benefit the environment, in which we can support us. So if you are curious, if you want to spend some time in something which enlightens you, which you are curious, which you want to find a soulmate, we will have such kind of meetings. The next one is Thursday here. It will be brainstorming, it will be practical. Everyone, there will be a separation of the 3 main groups, and people will brainstorm. So I know it's a little bit abstract, but if you have any questions, okay, 1 or 2 questions. Any of you? Or okay, so it's like I know it's like it is something which we believe that building such kind of society and having such kind of traction for the last 4 years, it's a right approach, and that's it. So now let's grab beer and pizza, and thank you.